Hi, David.
What's up, Jungle? How we living?
Living large. Not as large as you, but doing it, making a living.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. Wanted to talk some throwing program with you. I know you were a guy, just for our audience, you were a guy who, 35th rounder, got like $1,000, came into the Padres organization, threw a throwing program at you, a lifting program, and you came at it balls to the wall with high work ethic, high desire factor, and have really kind of transformed. It's been a little bit slower. You're 29 years old at this point, but it's taken a little bit of time, but you're in a really good spot in your career right now. So congratulations on all that,
Thank you.
and just kind of want to hear from you and your thoughts on you're coming out of it. I don't know what kind of instruction you had in high school and in college out of Lafayette College, similar to me out of Bucknell, East Coast school, cold weather, not a whole lot. And then you got a couple things. You got a throwing program, you got a lifting program. Like I said, you had Hideo Nomo showed you that split finger fastball, and then you just kind of layered one thing onto the next, and next thing you know, here you are at getting a big time interview here at PitchIQ, and but in all seriousness, two All-Star games, crushing it, doing a great job, and like who knows what the future has. There's more to come for sure. But some of your thoughts, and then just kick it around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the smaller school. Shout out the Patriot League. Bucknell and Lafayette. Yeah, not known for the baseball powerhouses by any means, but no, I think from the time I got drafted, I was just kind of pumped for the opportunity just to play at the next level and kind of put my head down and grind. And then whenever you kind of look up at the bigger picture, you kind of reflect back and think, wow, it's pretty wild how about the journey and just kind of how far you came. But then, to speak on more of, what we're going to get into more is just the throwing program and stuff. It's just something that I was fortunate kind of my whole life to, my dad's always been my coach, and he coaches the high school, our high school team, and he's always been really good. But, once I got to Lafayette, you're kind of on your own, and, I had some good coaches there, but it was, nothing crazy in terms of a full fledged throwing program or anything like that. And I think that was I contribute a lot of my success now to getting in a good routine in a good throwing program, and it's more of the attention to detail, which I remember you harping on quite a bit, like almost, which I remember at the time it was like, oh, geez, you can like we can't just take any throws off, but I think it's the guys that really bought into that and took it seriously because I remember of some of the mantras it was you don't get off a mound every day you don't pitch every day but you do play catch every day and think about how many throws you're making each day and you only have so many bullets off a mound but whenever you're playing catch those need to be just as high, maybe not as high intent, but just as high level focus. And it's taking every single throw and not wasting a single one. And then you're kind of able to dial in your adjustments. If you can dial in your adjustments during throwing program, it makes that transition to the mound so much easier.
Let me ask. I ask this question of kids all the time, not just with our minor leaguers, but amateur players. I give pitching lessons too, and it's part of one of our things we talk about at Pitch IQ. But you've been doing this for a long time. You've been a pro for like 7 years now or something, 8 years. Do you know if you were to guess what percentage of your throws of your career, right, in the last 8 years, what percentage of your throws you've made in the game as compared to throwing program?
Oof. I can't imagine it would be more than like 5% would be 5% would be game and 95 throwing program, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's like you only have so many throws off a mound, and you're playing catch every single day. I'm not, like as a reliever, I'm not getting in there every single day,
Right.
but so you need to make those throws count.
Yeah, it's 85% for starting pitchers, and for relievers like yourself, it's in that 90, maybe even 95%. So if like the kids out there that are like thinking about this, like wow, 9.5 out of every 10 throws that I make have nothing to do with the game. They're out in an outfield somewhere. You're throwing the ball off the chain link fence. You have no program. You have no idea what you're doing. It's like a free for all. It's like an asteroid field. Balls are flying all over the place, you know. And that's how amateur game is. That's how A ball is. But like once you kind of like got your handle on, like jungle's harping on you, like, oh, I can't take any throws off. But then you kind of like, once you kind of buy in, what happens there? You get the double A, you get the triple A. How much better do you get at it?
I think it's just the consistency of it all. I think, in order to get drafted in the first place, in order to play, professional ball at any level, you have to have some sort of arm talent. And that's what everybody has. But it's as you kind of progress each level, and then even now in the big leagues, you kind of see, you know, it's all about adjustments and who can make those adjustments the quickest. And I found that, from catch play, I kind of noticed the more seriously you start taking it and the more you're able to just kind of just backspin balls right through somebody's chest. And then, not every throw is going to be perfect, but it's the one, you let go arm side or you yank on it a little bit. And then it's how quickly are you able to get right back to where you need to be. And it's going from, just playing catch, and then that translates directly to the mound because you're not going to execute every single pitch, and you need to know how to get right back in the zone and make a competitive pitch the next one.
Yeah, I remember having worked with you for several years. You're very jovial. You're outgoing. You're jolly, like fun dude. But when you hit the lines, well, you're interesting. You're not like this, like I hit the lines and I'm crazy and blah blah blah. What I remember, and I don't know, I haven't been around you in a couple of years, but like what I remember is hit the lines, really intense for like 5 seconds, make your throw, and then right back to who you are. Take 10 seconds off, go back to just being yourself. Then once you have literally the ball is in your hand, right back to like a badass. Can you kind of talk about how you juxtapose those things, like how you go from like high intensity thought process to low intensity, all within the confines of being out there in right field doing throwing program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it kind of then that also kind of translates into just the life of a reliever. You kind of have to you can't be dialed in all 9 innings. It's nearly impossible. And then so you kind of have to know when you can turn it on, and that's like a little simple thing you can just work on just every single day in throwing program. And like not we're gonna say this a million times, but you throw so much every single day, and every single throw needs to matter. And it all starts from just having an intent with every single ball that you throw. And I think it's okay. I'm just gonna hit that dude right in the chest, eat every single throw, and knowing that each throw has a purpose and what you're trying to do, and you're accomplishing something every single throw, and you're getting feedback from every single throw. So it's just that kind of continued repetition of like kind of at a high level, and just like being able to it kind of goes the same. It's practicing locking it in as well, and knowing I'm not just here just to throw some baseballs. I'm here to kind of dial it in and throw a laser beam through your chest. And because I know if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to throw 40 throws, I'm going to at least hit 35 of them, and then making adjustments off the ones I miss.
What constitutes like execution and throwing program for you? Is it just crushing the guy's heart? Is it something smaller? Is it precise coordinates? Is it? I mean, you got big time stuff. You're sitting mid 90s. You can blast dudes at the top of the zone. So maybe for you it's a bigger target, whereas somebody who's 88 is going to be more, dialed precision targeting.
Yeah, being a four seam guy, it's a little bit easier of a thought process in my opinion. I'm just going right for the center cut of his chest, and I know like I'm especially looking for that target, and I know if I'm leaking or if it's going arm side a little bit, I know I need to make an adjustment, and then same thing if I'm cutting it. But I'm shooting for center mass, just right at just chest level, not too low or not too high, and then that's giving me direct feedback on each throw.
Do you still throw on lines? Like you remember how we used to throw on like football field lines? I used to draw them out there, or have you gotten away from that? Ripping seams and on lines.
Absolutely. When I can, or like you use like the cut of the grass and try and get your uh, get your bearings. But I'm always trying to at least stay in line. And like I said, just being a four seam guy, I need that to be as true as possible. And when you're on that line, if you're kind of your footwork, if you're closing off, if you're opening up, and you can track the ball so much easier that way, and it kind of gives you a little vantage point.
You mentioned 35 out of 40 throws when you were first drafted. I don't know if you can think back that far. Where did you kind of come from? Like 35 out of 40 executed is pretty damn good, obviously. I think the average major league player pitcher throws the ball in the strike zone like 60% of the time, still maybe 62.5% of the time. So obviously you're executing more throws in throwing program. There's less pressure. So thinking back to it, did you just come out? You just came out of the draft as that guy who was like 35 out of 40. My guess is probably not.
No, absolutely not. I think it's just one of those things that you continue to work on every day, and you kind of continue to get better. And kind of each day throwing like what your plan is, and what if today's going to be like 90 feet, if it's going to be 120, 180, 300, airing it out. You kind of know what you need to accomplish on that any given day. And but no, it was definitely a slow process. But it's having that intent to at least do so, and then you look back and it's like, oh whoa, like okay, I'm way more dialed in now than I was 3 weeks, a month ago. And each year kind of stacks on top of another, because you just figure out what works for you and how to take each throw seriously. And because at that point it's your job, and you don't really realize how important each throw is until you kind of get to the professional level. And that's one thing. If I can go back and you know not that guys at high school or college take throws off, but maybe not every single one is 100% focused. Like they're just throwing to throw and not they're not getting dialed in to throw.
Sounded like you were about to say warming up.
Yeah, I knew that
It's
was
one of my
coming. I
triggers.
figured yeah, I know. I figured we'd touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, do you throw to warm up, or do you show up warmed up and then you go out and throw?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. I'm not throwing it like 45 feet. Like my first throw is I'm good to go. Like I think that's one of the bigger things too, that I think you see more and more of it now. Guys have a better activation routine, and what they need to get going. But I have a set thing that, like, okay, I got a few things I need to hit no matter how much time I have. Like if I have a lot of time, I've got all the things I want to do. But then also it's like you have to make time for it. And I'm never just picking up a ball and throwing. And I think that's a very important thing, because longevity wise, health wise, and then also that it translates directly to execution throwing program. Because if you're showing up and you're not really ready to throw, and you're wasting 10 throws just to get loose, then you're not really accomplishing much.
When when did you like buy into this whole thing? Obviously you showed up and you weren't like, oh yeah, pitching coordinators are telling me like throwing program. No, you sat up there and you listened to the spiel, to the presentation, and then and there's other guys who are probably like, dude, these guys are crazy. I'm just, this is ridiculous. Whoever the other guys you were drafted with. But at some point you guys start separating yourselves from each other. And so how long did it take before you were like, you know what, this might work?
Yeah, no, I think kind of like a month or two, I was like, okay, like you can start to see the fruits of it, and you start to realize, okay, like each throw is getting a little bit better, and I'm not having those enormous misses anymore. But I would say, even honestly, probably in the past like year or two, I've kind of really noticed, like looking back and like, wow, okay, like I'm very thankful I took that seriously. And because it continues to pay dividends. And it's it because, like I said, it's every single day. You're getting that work in, and I've kind of laid that foundation, that groundwork of, okay, I know what I need, and now I'm just out there doing it. And I think that's one of the things I look back on, and I think that was probably one of the bigger things in my career is taking that seriously because like I said before, is just it's every single throw adds up, and if you're able to make every throw count, then in the game that magnifies 10 times.
Do you think it helped velo at all, or you just think lifting and like if you were to rank these things, sort of like my lifting? I mean, clearly, like programming is very important. Speed programming, lifting, throwing, nutrition, sleep, rest, recovery. I mean, they all kind of get baked in, especially in the professional game because it's your job.
Mhm.
But like, are you putting like lifting at the top, throwing at or near the top? Like, where do you kind of like rank these things?
I think it's like I think lifting and throwing is kind of right at the top of the list because you obviously have to have that that strength foundation to be able to handle that workload and carry it throughout the season and be able to stay healthy. But also, if you're not taking throwing programs seriously or taking any sort of throwing seriously, then your performance is probably going to suffer from it. I think they go hand in hand because you can't have one without the other. You can't just throw and just not do any work because you need to take care of your arm, take care of your body, and make sure that it's holding up throughout the season. And then you also need to focus on throwing because obviously that's kind of that's the whole point of the game
Yeah, that's
is
the name of the game, right? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So, do you do weighted balls? I mean, you used to do plyo care quite a bit. Do you ever do running guns and all that kind of stuff, or?
No, I keep it very simple when it comes to like weighted balls. I just have like a 2 pound ball that I like to use,
I remember.
and oh yeah, I still got it. That one got me until 2021 from like shoot, that was probably I got it like a sophomore in high school, and I finally broke it. And now I write my name on all of them, so I make sure I use the same one, so I know how long it takes me to break them. But yeah, no. So like before I throw, I'll just kind of go through, move it around, and do some like shorter throws into a wall, and then I'll do like kind of 3 or 4 normal throws into a wall, and but that's obviously like I know I'm on time. That's the biggest thing is like I'm making sure like my foot's down, hands in a good position to throw. I'm not just throwing it just for the heck of it. I'm still making sure I'm staying within my mechanics so that I'm not messing anything up or I'm not getting anything out of whack. Like that's one of the bigger things. Like I always kind of have to make sure and check myself on that I'm not just throwing it just to throw it. I'm still keeping within my mechanics that like foot down, arms ready to rock, and I'm in good positions.
So
But
process oriented
yeah, absolutely. I
within
think
the confines of your gig.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How much do you long toss, or do you not long toss anymore?
Oh no, I still long toss quite a bit. I try and in the off season it's not like a super strict. I kind of just go off of like I said, we this is kind of has such a compounding effect that I kind of just know where my arm is at this point, and I know what I need. But you know, I know I'm going to try and at least let it eat, air it out like twice a week in the off season. Probably 2 medium days, and then a shorter day or so, or however that works out. But I know like no matter what in the off season, I'm trying to air it out at least twice a week, and take the arm for a walk almost. And I was actually I still use that one, and I actually did that today. I threw a pen yesterday, so today we got out to like probably 150 and just backspinning baseballs and making sure the flight's good and it's got a good path. But that's one of the bigger things that I remember from your program is just because you're going 150, 180, even 300 doesn't mean it's a max effort day. You can still kind of ease it back. You don't have to be at 100%. You can still kind of just let it breathe and air it out, and get all the benefits from the long tossing without really kind of blowing it out per se. Because I think that was a big misconception on my end was, oh, if I'm going to go over 200 feet, that's a heavy day, like no matter what. And now in season I'm going probably at least 150 every day. And but like the intent changes, and just because I go 250, 280, 300, I'm still just letting it air out and whatever my arm's telling me that day.
This is music to my ears. I don't know if you remember. It worked.
Um, Absolutely.
The stereo dials, right? You have different variables,
Mhm.
right? Volume, intensity, distance, and time. And it sounds like you can manipulate distance, like you're going out to a deeper distance and are still able to kind of like keep that intensity in a good spot. It's sort of like going out for like a long distance run. Like you're not just going to go
Yeah.
sprint the entire time like a marathon runner, but you're trying to finish the marathon, let's say.
Yes.
So it's good to hear that like you're able to change those dials to like fit what you need for that day.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's all about like kind of having that feel of, okay, like I know where my arm's at today. And sometimes if you are barking a little bit, I found that just that light intensity, but still stretching out a little bit is because you can only go 90 feet, but you can still blow it out. Like you can still have that high intent day that's going to, make you sore tomorrow. Or you can also go 250 and have an easy day. Like the distance isn't always everything. It's more the intent and what you're putting into each throw.
Yeah, you can crow hop. I mean, you can shuffle, you can crow hop. You can do a lot of things to get the ball to a certain distance as your arm just kind of almost like relaxes into
Mm-hmm.
positions. Yeah, that's cool. That warms my heart because because
Oh
that's
no, it's in here, brother.
yeah. So what we call them now like an adaptation day where I'm trying to like force stress and kind of not tear you down but create a little bit of stress so that you can then rest and adapt. That's the heavy day. Then we have like a maintenance day where you're just maintaining the medium, and then I have like an active recovery day. And I also, which is, that's just like 90 feet day after you throw. And then I think for maybe not so much for relievers, but for starting pitchers, a full day off completely.
Right. Mhm.
Any guys you've been around at the major league level that actually take full days off now, or is it?
Yeah, I'd say I've seen it more in the past year or two than I have. Obviously in the minor leagues, you kind of have that extra day kind of baked in, but now I've seen guys just kind of do take care of all their weight room stuff because that's a lot of throws as a starter throughout the year, and if you can just take one day off and you just kind of give it a rest a little bit, it that kind of magnifies throughout the year, and that kind of shows up in August and September whenever some of those days. But it's not just like a day off just for a day off. I mean, they're still, they're getting their running in, they're getting their stuff in the weight room in, they're getting their treatment done. Like they might throw some like light plyos into a wall just to kind of get the arm moving a little bit, but it's just more of a true recovery day for the body because you're not going to completely forget how to throw after one day. I think that's more of the mental hurdle than anything. But I've seen guys have a lot of success with it.
Now, as a reliever, do you go out? Do you take, well, two-part question, and then we'll pretty much wrap it up. But do you take days off like that? And on the days that you're actually throwing, do you get hot and or close to being hot? Do you throw close to game time? Do you throw earlier in the day? And sorry, four-part question. I got a lot of questions about throwing because I love it. And then when you said I long toss like twice a week, can maybe we'll wait for later for the at the end of this and we'll talk about this. But I do have a question about like, oh, I'm supposed to long toss today, but I haven't pitched in 3 days, so I'm not going to long toss today. And then you don't pitch that day, and next thing you know, it goes 4 days, 5 days, 6 days without playing long toss, which is a conundrum that relievers can
Yeah,
get into, and the good ones know how to figure that, how to navigate that path. So,
yeah.
however you want to answer those, and then
Yeah, so I think as far as relieving goes, I don't take many days off, but if I know I'm for sure down that day, so if I want a back to back or a three in a row, like and I'm not going to pitch or whatever my workload was, I'll try and take those days, but only on days that I know I'm not going to be in the game that night, because I at least want to feel it, feel just how my arm, how it's coming out of my hand, and how it's feeling any given day.
so do you
Um,
get in order to figure out how you feel, do you have to get close to 100%? Do you get hot or no?
No, it's
Okay.
I don't rev it up too much. It's more of maybe like I'll get out to 90, 120 and just let it breathe a little bit and just see how it's feeling, and just more so making sure that it's spinning right. I'm not compensating and trying to do too much with my body, and it's still just on that line, and it's staying true.
And then talk about that long toss thing. Like, how do you navigate? Like, I haven't pitched in 3 days. I'm going to pitch tonight, so I'm not going to long
Yeah.
toss today. Like, because I think that thought process there is like guys who think like long toss is going to break me down, and then I won't be ready in 3 hours to pitch. If you're playing
Yeah.
catch at 5 o'clock and then you pitch at 8 o'clock, and I'm just, and that's a common thing at A ball. But by the time you get to Double A, Triple A, the big leagues, I feel like you have a pretty good grasp of how to navigate that.
Yeah, without a doubt. I feel like that's one of the tougher things, especially when you first get to the big leagues, because it's way more regimented and way more a little bit more scripted. Like if you go 4 days, you're definitely gonna throw, but especially throwing late in the game, you're not gonna you never really know. So, but I think that's kind of a never ending battle that you're always kind of fighting with and making sure like finding that balance. But I found that no matter what, I need to, if it's, so let's just say if I haven't thrown in 3 days, I'm still gonna I'll let it rip. I'll let it rip a little bit and just make sure I'm still at game speed, but no more than probably 5 or 10 throws. Like if I go, if that is a long toss day, I'll still go out to 280, 300, and just let it breathe a little bit, and never like I'm never throwing it on a line at 300 during the season.
Right.
It's more of like, okay, it's either I'm throwing it, I'm not pulling down on the way back, or I am. And usually if it's been 2 or 3 days, I'm pulling down just so I can get it moving at game speed, and maybe throwing a couple like just on a line at 75 feet or so, and then I'll try and get off a mound every third day if I'm not on, just to stay sharp and stay with everything. And it is a fine line, because then if you do, if you haven't pitched in 3 days and then you kind of rev it up in throwing program, and then next thing you know you're staring at a three in a row or three or four, so it's always kind of finding that balance, but also being able to stay ready every single night to be able to pitch. And but no, I found like there is that balance, and you really have to just listen to your arm and know what you can do and what you can't do. But it's more about just kind of staying ready, because ultimately you need to refine everything during catch play. But if you're blowing it out too much just to do it, then you're not going to be as ready or as sharp in the game, because you kind of blew it out too early.
Yeah, for sure. The in 2021, I was AAA pitching coach with El Paso, and then I ended up managing the team too later on in the year. But it was crazy. But I was having the relievers throw off the mound daily, even if it was like 2 throws. Have you ever experimented with something like that?
Not so much daily. I would say maybe it's like an every other day, or if like there's something I need to work on. But I'll try and at least do some dry work on the mound. And again, it's the same thing as like the long toss stuff. You don't have to. It's not all about. It's not like, oh, touching the mound. That's bad. It's like you're gonna wear yourself out. It's it's there's levels to it, and if you're not, you can scale it back as much as you want, or you can step on the pedal as much as you want. And it's all about knowing what your workload's been, what what it should be, and all that stuff, and trying to figure out what your arm needs. But I found that I do like to touch the mound kind of more often than not, just to get that feel down the slope, because it's like I don't throw flat grounds per se anymore. Like if I'm gonna just spin some to somebody down, I'm at least gonna go off a mound and do it. And what's the difference between it gets a bad rap, because what's the difference between ripping 10 to 15 curveballs to your throwing partner, and 5 or 6 good ones off a mound, and you're actually getting that timing and that feeling down the slope.
Yeah, for sure. All right, buddy. Last question. When was I don't know if you remember. When was the first time in pro ball that you went back to back days?
Oof.
What level were you at?
Oof. Man. Maybe maybe high A, probably, if I had to guess. You guys did a good job of kind of easing us into that and keeping, but still like kind of being ready. And I feel, that's one of the biggest things is just knowing how that feels going into the big leagues, and
Yeah.
preparing yourself. Not only just physically, because you're fine the next day. It's way more of like a mental hurdle. Like, oh man, like I threw yesterday. Like how will I be able to recover? It's more of, okay, my manager trusts me in this situation, and I know my stuff's going to be good, and I know how to bounce back because I did all my stuff in the weight room. I took care of my arm, throughout the year, and I got it prepped to go for that day.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and look at the game logs. Maybe high A in like a playoff situation. Probably most likely nowadays we do
I think
double A and
double.
higher. But
Yeah.
I'm getting amateur players with PitchIQ that are like, oh yeah, I did it like this summer. Or if you look
Well,
at, there's some guys that are like going three in a row. So I remember the first time I went three in a row, I was in Japan and I was like 34 years old. I was like, oh, this is terrible. It's terrible. I mean, you can do it. That's part of the reason why
yeah.
you are who you are at this point. Not everybody can do that, but that's, to me, it's like so catastrophic for arms. It's just the arm health in general, the Tommy Johns and the yada yada. Rough.
Yeah, especially at that young. Oof. Yeah, because that's yeah, it's way different, in as you kind of continue to progress, and it's definitely a necessary thing you have to do, but doing it too early is just when your body's not ready for it or not used to it. It's just
Yeah, they get abused, man. Some of the travel ball coaches are abusing them.
it's wild.
It's wild. Well, I appreciate you taking the 45 minutes, man. That's huge. You got anything you want to close with, or any words of wisdom you want to impart on me?
No, man, I think it goes back to all the mantras, and I just remember how fired up you used to get given the throwing program speech. That was like, it was not a joke, but it was like every day in every year in spring training. That was like the big PowerPoint day, and you just get so fired up. And it was like, all right, like this guy just likes throwing program, but now looking back, it makes so much more sense as to just how passionate you are about it, and the impact it really does have on it. I know it's had on my career, and I know it's had on a bunch of other people's careers, just because it's just that continued intent and focus every single day. Because we're gonna end it just like we started it. It's you throw not off a mound so much more than you do on a mound, and that's truly how you see the progress, and you're able to just kind of fine tune those little fixes, those little errors, and you're just able to get so much more dialed in, and you're able to bounce back because it's a game of adjustments, and if it takes you two batters to figure it out, you're not going to be as successful as it's somebody who's like, okay, I just missed one pitch, I'm gonna get right back in the zone, and it's pitch to pitch and not batter to batter, and the more you can hone that in throwing program, the better off you're going to be.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate being the butt of everybody's jokes while you were in A ball and double A.
It worked.
But look, sometimes you got to sacrifice yourself on the altar. So like later on, I can pray to the gods later on. But no, hopefully it's had an impact on your career and on some other guys' careers. And no, I appreciate you saying kind words. And with that, here we go.